How's it going? Demuxed 23, very excited to be here. As Phil said, we're going to be talking about experimenting with various fun things to create user experiences. So your first question may be, and I know we have limited time here, so I don't want to waste too much time on an about me slide, but you're probably asking, who is this guy? And I want to be specific, and there's a reason why I'm expressing this to you. First of all, I am not a video engineer. I am an engineer who builds video applications, and I think that's an important distinction to make. And I'm actually kind of curious, if you don't mind sharing with me, how many of us here are people who build APIs for video? Okay. And I assume then the rest of you are people who build with those APIs. Is that a correct assumption? Yes? You build with APIs, building applications? Excellent. Thank you so much. So as a developer advocate for Twitch, for Amazon IVS, my job is I have the best job in the world. I get to build fun demos and play around with things and share that kind of stuff with developers like yourselves. Sometimes these demos aren't 100% practical. Sometimes they're kind of silly. Sometimes they're kind of not real-world things. But I think they do a good job of inspiring and getting developers to think about new ways of building applications with some of these APIs. A lot of times, though, they are based in reality, so I kind of like to follow current trends, industry things, so that they're applicable to developers. Right now, what's hotter than AI and ML? Obviously, ChatGPT, generative AI, all kinds of different companies have their own solutions that they're coming out with. But that's kind of one of the things that I want to talk about. And another thing that I like to play around with is hardware. Arduinos and Raspberry Pis. I've just always had a passion for tinkering with hardware. So I like to use that in some of my demos. So that's some of what we'll be seeing here today. As I look out in the crowd, I see some of this and some of your faces. No, I'm kidding. You don't look that bored. But without exaggeration, and I truly mean this, live video has changed the world that we live in. Is that a fair statement, right? A lot of times gaming streams, Twitch might get a lot of credit for live streaming, but I think it's much more than that. I think live video has changed how we learn. Obviously during COVID, my kids and your kids and some of you yourselves really benefited from the ability to have live communications with other people when it wasn't possible to be together in person, right? It's changed how we work. Now, I know that a lot of companies are going to return to office and return to work and things like that, but a lot of us, like myself, I've been fully remote for 12 years. I live in the middle of nowhere in Georgia, literally 2 hours from Atlanta in the Appalachian Mountains. So I could not do my job without live video. In addition to that, it's changed how we communicate with our friends and family. Live video, FaceTime communications, Google Meet, all of these kind of products and solutions that are available have enabled this global world that we live in, have enabled people to communicate with their friends and family. I have friends who have shared news of pregnancies over live video with their family or their friends. Live long-distance relationships. Back when I was dating in the 90s, decades ago, live, long-distance relationships were like you pick up a phone and you call someone and you talk to them, and then you had to pay a long-distance bill just to do that, right? We didn't have the ability to real-time conversations with our significant other. And for me personally, my father got sick with cancer in 2019, and horrible timing, right? COVID into 2020. I was able to spend quality time with him in his last year of his life that I couldn't otherwise do because he lived 600 miles away. I couldn't go up to see him as often as I wanted to. So I was able to spend some time with him over live video that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to do. Now, I say all that because I'm very inspired by all of you. Without the work that you do every day, none of this would be possible. The question I have is, what will tomorrow look like? What will next year look like? What will 10 years from now look like? And how can the technology that you work on every day get us to that point? Now, every social network has a live streaming offering these days, right? How is your application different, the one that you're building? How does the platform that you're building enable and empower developers to be different? How do you assist in things like content detection, monetization, content discovery? How do you enable developers to create safe communities for their users? Now, your platform, I'm not suggesting that your platform needs to enable or empower every one of these things directly, but I want you to keep these kind of things in mind as solutions that developers are building, and at the very least, make sure that your platform doesn't hinder them or stop them from building these types of solutions, right? We're going to look at a few different demos in this session very soon here. And some of these, again, are not going to be the most practical solutions, but they're all created with that same goal in mind, to inspire you, to get you thinking about potential solutions, thinking about the way developers solve problems. Think about the industry trends that are happening right now, things like generative AI. Think about things, this may be a little bit of a stretch, but think about things that were created totally by accident. Things like penicillin and WD-40 and Teflon. These things were accidental inventions, happy accident type things. And try to always keep in mind the way people are building on your platforms. Listen to streamers, listen to developers, listen to viewers and what they want to see. So, as I said, let's talk about AI and ML. We've seen some really cool things just in this past year in this space, right? There was a Twitch streamer that created an interface with an EEG and can actually play video games with her mind. Now, that sounds insane, but it's true. She created this interface and actually played Elden Ring with her mind just by thinking of the actions that she wanted to perform. LiveKit is another example. Is anyone from LiveKit here? There's got to be someone from. Someone? No one? Okay. Well, shout out to LiveKit. They created a really cool demo with generative AI that essentially is like this digital assistant, can take notes, can act as a translator, and just sits inside a real-time conversation alongside of the participants and can listen to the conversation. These are really impressive uses to me of generative AI and machine learning and computer vision. But there are other ways to use this technology to improve the user experience and create safer experiences. There's various approaches that you can use with AI and ML. You can grab a frame from a feed, from a stream, use computer vision to do content detection, sentiment analysis, things like this. You can grab the audio and convert that to text for transcription, translation, sentiment analysis, PII detection. You can analyze a stream of chat messages, right? Because most live streaming applications will have the chat next to it. Once you have that data, what you do with it is up to you. You can use it to train your own models. You can use pre-trained models. And like I said, do sentiment analysis, PII detection. You can help monetization. You can use it for moderation. Maybe, for example, if you find some offensive content within that stream and stop it immediately or alert a moderator to take further action. Things like this. And of course, transcription and translation. So let's take a look at a demo using AI and ML and computer vision to detect sentiment. Now, there are two different solutions at work in the demo we're about to see. Sorry if that's a little too flashy, I guess. Oh, thank you. Maybe they stopped it. There's two different things going on here. There's going to be a live stream in the left-hand side of the screen, and on the right-hand side, there's going to be chat. Up in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see an embedded video of my desktop, and there's going to be two different lights there. On the streamer analysis, sentiment analysis side of things, it's going to grab a frame every second. It's going to do some sentiment analysis on that, and then send a message via a message broker to an Arduino client, which updates a little mood ring based on whether I'm smiling or not. The other thing at work here is a chat sentiment analysis, and that's a bot that runs on an Arduino, and it connects up to the chat room. Every time a message is received, it does some sentiment analysis and updates the bottom light. So if I play that, so I'm smiling here, and in just a second, the top left-hand corner, my mood ring turns to green because I'm smiling, right? And if I'm not smiling, doing a little menacing look, it will update and turn to red. So I also have the real-time sentiment analysis. Of course, my beard is recognized, which is very important to me. The age range is surprisingly accurate, although I am on the lower end, I should say. So as you can see up here in the top right, I'm updating the chat, and the bottom light up there was updating along the same time. Now, this might seem like just a bit of a fun party trick, but think about this. Think about uses of this. Think about using content detection to let a potential advertiser know that their product was talked about, and this was the sentiment during that live stream when that product was talked about. Think about the power of that, to be able to share that with potential advertisers. I think it's pretty impressive. What about speech to text? So analyzing images and text typed into a chat room are only one part of the equation. Obviously, we also need to consider spoken word. Now, speech recognition, speech synthesis is not new technology. We've been working on this, believe it or not, if you're not familiar, for over 70 years. Back in the 1950s, researchers at Bell Labs were working on speech recognition for, of course, military purposes. I remember, does anybody remember the Apple II? I don't know if it first was an Apple II, but I was like 7, 8 years old, and I used to go over to my neighbor's house, and they had Sam on the Apple II where you could type in a word on the command line. And for a 7-year-old, like to make a computer in 1984 say fart was like the funnest thing in the world, right? So it's not new technology here. But it can be used, as I said, to answer some of those most requested use cases, things like transcription, translation, using generative AI-based virtual assistants, like I said, keyword-based content moderation and detection. So here's an example of that.
Todd! Hey, good morning. How are you?
You can see my friend Scott over here said my name, Todd. It's being transcribed in real time. My little icon appears at the bottom because it recognized my name. I mentioned the fact that I'm about to mention the fact that I'm preparing for the Demuxed conference, and the Demuxed logo gets added at the bottom of there.
How are you today, Scott?
I also included Phil and Matt, but I didn't demo that. But we can see that later on. So basically, real-time transcription can also be used for translation, all in a real-time conversation. This uses Whisper CPP and WebAssembly so that the real-time conversation is not just getting from my microphone. I know a lot of browsers have support for speech detection and things like that, speech recognition. This is actually combining the entire audio of the feed and feeding that into Whisper for real-time client-side transcription. So it's much faster, it's pretty accurate, punctuation is actually pretty good. Really interesting, fun stuff. So the next demo I want to show you is related to using human presence sensors to detect when a person is there and kind of start a stream. Now, when I first came up with the idea for this talk, it was kind of based around this whole idea, and it was quite a roller coaster ride for me of highs and lows when I was working on this demo. I originally ordered, it was a sensor called Aqara, A-Q-A-R-A. It's a human presence sensor, and I read an article about it, and I said, that's a really cool idea. I need to order one of these and use it to integrate with a live stream. And I ordered it. It was not inexpensive at all. It arrived in the mail, and I got it. And unfortunately, the particular version that I bought off of eBay, it was not directly from the manufacturer because they're sold out. So I got one off eBay, and unfortunately, it was tied to China, which is fine. I don't care, but it made it a little difficult to read their documentation in their developer console. And additionally, it was difficult, well, it ended up being very slow because the servers were all China-based, right? So it wasn't really great. So that was kind of my high and low. And then I got another high when I heard that essentially this Aqara sensor is just an off-the-shelf millimeter wave sensor that anybody can buy. So I'm like, great, I'm gonna buy one of those and I'm gonna do this myself. So I bought it, I ordered it, back on a high, I get it, I hook it up, I write some code, and the thing just was terrible. It was like not working, not detecting. It was like turning off when I was in front of it. And I'm like, what's going on with this thing? So now I'm at a low. So final high is that I'm like, oh, my jumpers are loose. So I finally soldered those on and everything's working. And it's kind of an out there demo, but when I think about things like this, when there's crazy speakers like me up on stage and it's being live streamed and I'm pacing back and forth, imagine being able to detect when I'm in range of this camera and switch to this camera. Now we have an amazing AV team back behind the scenes that's doing that for us right now, but to be able to assist in that with hardware is a really cool option. And then when I walk over to this sensor, have it detect me and switch to this camera. This seems like a really fun demo. So let's take a look at that demo really quickly. And essentially, I have it set up for a specific range. So right now, I'm close to the sensor, but when I put my hand over the sensor, it detects, it sends a message to my application, and it turns on this camera over here automatically. When I come out of range, pull my hands back, the camera will turn itself off, and that participant will exit that real-time stream. So another fun demo. Now last year at Demuxed, I did a lightning talk about a PTZ camera that I created with an Xbox controller and a little cheap servo. And it was a fun demo to build and play around with. Again, not really the most practical demo. I mean, for certain use cases, sure, but it's a very custom solution. So I want to show you quickly again that full solution with an Xbox controller. Essentially, it uses the gamepad API of the web browser, sends controls based on the analog stick movements to an Arduino again over web serial, and then that web serial, that Arduino is used to control the servo. So if I push up, the camera will move. Actually, if I push down, the camera will move up because I'm an inverted stick controller guy. Any gamers out there? Okay. I also extended it, as we'll see in the second video. So here's a demo of that video. So I have my Xbox controller. I've got my servo sitting on my desk in front of me. I connect that up, as you can see in the top left. Then I connect up to my Arduino. And once everything's all connected, I'm able to pan and tilt with my Xbox controller and move the camera for my live stream. Now, it's fun, it's cool to do, there's possible applications for it, but I thought it would kind of be a little cooler to use some client-side facial detection and automate that. So instead of using a controller, send those commands based on where my face is inside the stream. So I used Face API, which is a JavaScript library, and anytime my face basically moves out of that center square, I'm gonna automatically send those commands to the servo, and it should follow my face along the screen. So you can see as I move left, it's a little bit janky. My code's not 100% perfect. I can smooth that out a little bit, but you can see as I move, that camera is following and centering my face in the frame as I move along. So a little bit fun. Now this last example, last demo, I should throw a disclaimer out there. Anyone from Dolby here? Hi, Dolby. I did not steal this from you, I promise. It's going to look like I did. I've put a link to your demo, but I didn't learn that you all had created this demo until I was literally done with mine. So disclaimer, y'all did awesome, it's great. I was actually trying to solve a problem with the audio at the very last minute, and I came across your post and I'm like, oh great, now everyone's gonna think that I stole their demo. I did not. It's a little different though. So for a long time, our platforms have required, our streaming platforms, at least Twitch in general, have required streamers to use third-party software to stream to the site. Things like OBS, Streamlabs, all the various tools that are available out there. Not, in my opinion, not the most user-friendly solution for every user, right? Takes a little bit of configuration, setup, things can go wrong. So although we have this large community of gaming streamers, we could reach much more if we made it easier for people to stream to our applications, our platforms with their games. So my thought is, we have WebRTC, we have WIP, we have WEP. Why not create a game in Unity? And I'm not a game developer, so keep that in mind. But why not create a game that can broadcast directly to a live streaming channel, a real-time channel, from the engine itself? No need for the user to install third-party software. This can be used from things like VR devices, AR, those kind of things. And essentially, to me, it opens up to an entire new audience of potential streamers. Not only can we broadcast from the game engine, we can broadcast to a game. So we can have co-op games where you can see your teammate's face right on our screen inside the game itself. So let's take a look at that. Before I click play, on the left-hand side is the game itself, created in Unity using their very simple demo game. On the right-hand side, when I start playing, the real-time stream will be shown above. One difference between my demo and the Dolby demo is that I took it a little step further, and I added a second virtual camera to the game so that the viewer themselves can change the camera. So when I click play, you can see the real-time stream starts over here. And as I click these buttons, I can change my camera as a viewer to whatever camera angle I want. Now, as I play the game, the viewer can continue to change their camera angle, but the game camera obviously stays focused. You wouldn't want to mess with that. Maybe you would. I don't know. That would make for an interesting game, changing the camera angle of the gamer while they're playing. But it opens up so many opportunities for things like boss cameras and alternate views, top-down views from games for viewers that create this new dynamic experience, allow them to get insight into game statistics from the stream side of things, allow them to control the gameplay, things like that, right? So my final question here is, what does the future look like? Will we be having like real-time conversations from like holographic wristwatches? Are we going to see Ready Player One in real life? Are we going to have full-blown generative AI assistant live chats with real-looking assistants? I don't know the answer to this, but essentially, I'm excited to be a part of the journey. I'm humbled to be among so many developers that are making this happen. And I just really want to encourage you and thank you for the work you've done, encourage you to keep pushing forward, seeing where we can go. And I'm really looking forward to be a part of that ride. And so thank you.